Hello everybody, welcome back as ever to Building Blocks, where we program Minecraft mods live on camera. And tonight we are mostly going to be doing some modelling, I think that's going to be the majority of our evening. But first, a little bit of display on what I've been working on for most of the past week. Yep. Okay, where are ya? Yeah, I haven't fixed persistence on these guys, so currently they spawn in before you do and then realize they don't detect you, so they just die. Which makes it rather difficult to test them. But anyways, so we have a nice new screen, and this one isn't done yet. I want this area here to be scrollable and actually have a backing. You can see everything. We can see things through him here, which is not grand. But we have access to the actual main hand slot, and if we had more actual inventory space, there'd be a button down here that would take us to the main inventory screen, and then back and whatnot, and that should work. There's a little bit of a duplication glitch at the moment, as you'll see if I just... I don't know, has it decided to fix itself? Nope, there it is. Yeah, I don't know exactly what's causing that, but, you know, one way or another, I guess we'll find out. Only happens with things that can be stacked, interestingly enough. But it's a bug, and it will be squashed before this goes live. But it does make things relatively easy to manage, so if you just have, like, the vast majority of companions, you'll want to access their main gear inventory over here, and then their settings over here, but for, like, cargo-carrying creatures, like donkeys, I guess, you'll be able to just, like, hit a button and you go to there. So, yay, good for that. But today, we are working off of our list of stuffs that we came up with last week to try and create a brand new, very elven, kind of sylvan, kind of fey kind of disguise for our witch, which will then also be the primary disguise of these changelings over here. These are the ones that aren't typed specifically, so they're not classed as being villagers or pigs or cows or chickens or horses or whatever. So, yeah, we kind of need that. Oh, you have decided to show up. Okay, very good. You know, there was a fox over here just recently. It was very strange. So yeah, that's what we're working on today. So, without any further ado, let's hop into it. There's a little bit more that I can show off, I believe. I don't think this was done last week, so if I hop over to our enchantments, we have a few more. We started off with making Fey Touched, and now we have a lot more than that. So we've got Dragon Slaying, we have Giant Felling, we have Silvered, we have Verminbane, and these all are specifically typed, so they aim for a specific mob type, which is the configurable ones that we have in various oddities, not the default ones in vanilla, where there's, like, literally one that's just generic, essentially. It's just bleh. And that allows us to apply additional magic-based damage to mobs that we hit that have those particular types. Then, we also happen to have things like Thundering, which is a bonus damage type, which functions sort of like Bane, but for everybody, and of a specific damage type. So we've got Thundering, we have, let's see, Ice Aspect, and I think that's all the ones we currently have, but suffice to say, we can do a bunch. And that means sonic damage and cold damage are now things that you can deal with your weaponry, which is lovely. There's a lot more that I'll be adding in that regard, but they're mostly fairly generic stuff. There's more complicated enchantments that we could add that would be things that happen at a specific moment when you tell it to, and that would require a key binding, which I haven't as yet created, and I'm not 100% certain how to fashion to work, because in theory there's a lot of those same enchantments that happen on your armor pieces, and then some that happen on your held items, like your shield or your sword, so I then have to figure out exactly how you select which one to happen in an expedient and clear manner. So, if, for example, you have a sword and a helmet you're wearing that have such an enchantment on, and you push the button, do we activate the sword or do we activate the helmet? That sort of thing. It's like, which one are you intending to trigger here? And in the event of a lot of those, what are you trying to use it on? That kind of thing. It's like, are you aiming in the direction that you're looking, or at the creature that you're looking at, or all sorts. So, gets pretty complicated. It's a lot easier in D&D where you just say it, but obviously we have to take that kind of, like, experience of D&D and translate what you would be saying into a thing that you can actually do in-game in a reasonably efficient and expedient manner. But anyways, so, booting up technique, And here we have our list of elements that we're going to be trying to put into this. So we want pieces that are wooden, we want leaf elements, we want general greenery, we do want to have pointed ears, we want to have a pointed crown, which will probably itself be a special item, so hey, we might get to do that tonight as well. Then we also want to incorporate the changeling wings as a sort of cloak or cape. We definitely want golden highlights, jewelry, and accessories. We definitely want to have a bustle, because that will look awesome. And then we want to keep our trail of greenery, as particles, as well as some glowing eyes. So those are all visual elements for the most part. So now we just need to actually we need to convey that in a design. So let's make this real quick and just actually add a bustle as our starting piece, because Lord knows I think you'll want to see the witch in a bustle. So let's see, if we shift this down to sort of like lower mid back, about there, yeah, so waist level. And then rotate that a bit. I'm kind of... we could make it a full-blown dress piece, in which case we actually don't really need to have legs in here. But alternatively, we can make it a little bit more like there are legs at the front and then the bustle is behind, which is an efficient solution, but it kind of reminds me of... what's the phrase? It's like you see it a lot in like Wild West, and I cannot for the life remember what it was. Because surprisingly, I wasn't alive back then. I know, amazing, very, very, very surprising to a lot of people there. But it's like if we look at, let's see, bloop. I guess sort of like that. This is probably the clearest image I can find here. In a hot minute. It's like you've got the main like dress part that's just sort of like swooped back, and then there's just like stockings and leggings at the front. That might not look quite the right style for what we're going for here. So let me know, chat. Should I have this be a full bustle with no legs, or should I have it be... I don't really know what you're going to decide. I don't know. Or should we let it be sort of can girl? Do let me know. For the moment, at least, I'm gonna try and make it actually be a bustle. What is a bustle? Basically... Oh, how do I put this? There was... You know how a lot of people talk about women having quite imaginatively profound posteriors these days? Well, back in the day, by like 18th, 19th kind of centuries, that was a thing that was fashion, like, supported. That was a thing that you actually had support structures to implement. These days you just have a big booty and then you just put tight clothing over it. But yeah, this right here is a bustle. Like, buttocks that you could rest a dinner plate on, that kind of style. That's what a bustle is. And yeah, there were support structures that created that. And it's a very common feature of a lot of Victorian era kind of displays, because it was in the style. It was the style back then. I don't know why. I wasn't alive then. Reminds you of the granny from the movie Robots. I think she's more specifically African coded. I don't know exactly. Like I said, Afro-American coded, I think, but maybe. Let's see, how much that? That is 10. Let's make this 11. Dusty, please. That seems significantly too wide. I don't think that that's going to work. But let's find out. Let's see, -5 and -3. Hey guys, how you doing? Hey, Saren. Welcome to a spot of modeling. This feels so far kind of like a... It feels mildly like a Dalek that has been weirdly assembled. I don't know, I'm not dreadfully sold on this. Snail centaur, I guess? Yeah. It's a man who was tragically fused with a church bell. Yeah, I don't think I'm down for that. God, what was the name of that one? That's gonna bug me. It's like that kind of thing is what I'm looking at here. God, what was it? So something like this is you guys can barely see that. Hang on. Something like that is not bad. That's a good base, I want to say. This will be very much mixing my references because we'll have gone from like Elizabethan and Victorian to 19th century, like Wild West, essentially. Yeah, like that right there. That we can probably manage, actually. I cannot vouch for how historically accurate this will end up being, but we're gonna make it. Wait, what are we making? We are trying to make a regal, kind of royal, elf, sylvan, fae kind of design that will be the final version, hopefully, of the witch's elf design, which will also then be the basis of the like elven disguise for the changelings. So we have a bunch of elements here that we're going to be trying to use in making that. So, okay, if we presume, let's start by reducing that angle. And then if we generate a bunch of these, essentially, we can tag them to each other and they'll be okay. Hopefully. Victorian Wild West seems steampunkish. You're not wrong. Not if we add lots of leaves. I mean, then it could still be steam fantasy. Like, that's not impossible. Okay, and this little window up here is for texturing. We don't care about texturing right now. So we don't need to worry about that. Right now we're just trying to get the actual model put together. And I will note that at present all of these conflict. They're all at the exact same kind of like Z level, as it were. Well, I think it's actually the X level, but in that case, technically speaking. You can kind of make it out as I move that. Yeah, you can kind of see they're intersecting, but because of the way Minecraft models work, we can give them scale values that will cause them to not conflict. You always want to try and avoid Z fighting. It's not a pretty thing. Okay. I think we do want to have used slim arms for this one. Slim arms seem like the obvious choice here. Okay, what are we gonna do about the torso? Because right now all we've got is a bustle, essentially. And I feel like a bustle is not quite enough. Pointed ears we'll be adding to the head. Ooh, which reminds me we're going to need a headwear layer. Okay. So yeah, we can draw it in and give ourselves room to add essentially a corset. There's an idea. Let's hop quickly over to Model Changeling. So we can grab what the wings are. Let's see, 5, 15, and 1. Okay. That's by 2, okay. Okay, right. Looks a little bit more like a cape than anything else right now, but we're going to be working on the torso here next. So first, let's abbreviate it. Give ourselves room for this. There's no way about it. There's no other way of describing it. Let's give ourselves some room for this bust. How severe do we want to be here? Because we could go like that, or we could make it a bit more gentle. Be like that. So that we're only 1 step in as opposed to potentially 2, which looks significantly thinner. The bustle should disguise the fact that these are going to be like just that could. Ooh, yeah, that won't work. That won't do. That won't do. But that's fine, because as long as the bottom of the bustle is opaque, you won't ever see that. Okay, I do feel like we need maybe a little bit of a piece on top of the bustle. Let's see, that's at 10, this is at 9, that's fine by me. There we go, just so there's a little bit of interfacing. Okay, and then we want to give the body essentially a body wear layer so that we can have that the top of the corset. Says we don't need to care about the texturing just yet. Still, for whatever reason, actually adds texturing. Like texture file locations. Right. I don't know if I'm sold on this part just yet on the wings. I mean, this is very bland for you guys, but I do have like a mind's eye view of what this should look like. If I lower these down a little bit, maybe, would that look a bit better? I could theoretically lower them to mid-back even. If I just change up what the what angle they're resting at so they don't interfere with the bustle. So we just attach that to like the back of the clothing on the shift, I guess? I'm not sure. This is not really meant to be 100% representative of actual historical fashion, but Fae usually aren't anyways, partially because of influences of natural elements and designs that make them tied to that, and partially because they're usually a sort of a funhouse mirror of the era, and not usually even the modern era. They're usually like a couple hundred years or so back. So there's an interesting thing to think of then, which is, given that the Fae are always described or designed as being like mimicking poorly the styles of mortals from centuries past, there's theoretically a point where they'll start dressing like 90s kids, but wrong. Imagine that in your Cyberpunk game. You open a portal to the Feywild and a 90s kid walks out. With his hat on forwards. Oof. Now the fun thing is, because this is still the same size and shape and orientationing as the wings, we could actually have them still flutter in this form, which will be disorienting as hell if we actually make them, if we actually texture these to look like, parts of the actual changelings. Yeah, but like generally speaking, they tend to be like, I want to say like 17th, 18th century kind of fashion, especially French fashion in that regards. You frequently see them with the masquerade ball masks and like painted faces and whatnot. But in theory, after a point, they're going to start updating. They'll just be like really out of time and still kind of wrong of human mortal fashions. So eventually they are going to start dressing up like they're Victorian, and eventually after that they're going to start dressing up like they're in the midst of like World War One, and then they're going to get to greasers, and that's going to be really weird. Can you imagine I was about to say, can you imagine Greaser Fae, but no, I absolutely can. Dear lord, they all look like they just walked off of a set of grease. What, like they just, all of their hairs are just like semi-bouffant John Travolta. Wow. Dear lord. Somebody write that, please. Okay. I feel like we want to have the ponytail. But we can model that part's already actually modeled. We just need to add that as a layer. That's how it animates. So, is there anything we want to do to the leggies? Or are the leggies okay as is? We can make them thinner, but that might make them a bit too thin. I'm not sure. That's not them centered, but I don't know. I don't know. I think keep them as is for the time being. And the arms, I think, should be probably largely uncovered. We can add maybe an arm wear layer or such to it to add some extra detail for jewelry and whatnot. Wooden element, I like the idea of it being a wooden corset. Leaf elements, we can definitely get all over this, especially with the bustle. The trail of greenery especially has a special significance if we have the bustle, because the bustle is essentially its own, like, trail. An extremely exaggerated form of the bustle has become a frequent element of wedding dresses. So long that you had to have servants carry them, that kind of thing. Which, let's not even remotely touch on how comical weddings have become in recent years, but anyways. Okay, let's try and get some of this actually into our program here. So we want entity, patron. We have so many witch models here purely because we have the witch likes to dress up, I guess is the easiest way of putting it. Oh, tress, is that what I called it? Is that what it was called? Lord, let me have a quick look at what a tress is. I know why I'm seeing this, but I feel like it bears mentioning. Because this is ridiculous. Okay, so a tress is part of fashion. It's part of a dress, essentially. But because evidently enough people have misspelled it, what you actually get when you Google tress is a lot of trees. Just a lot of trees. I'm not surprised. I'm just disappointed. Okay, we don't need that. We shouldn't need that. And for the time being, we definitely don't need that. Maybe, yeah, do we want to keep sleeves on this? We said that we'll be keeping this mostly, like, bare-shouldered, as it were, but do we want to actually have sleeves in here as well? Like, fancy sleeves that the witch tends to have, they're, like, significantly exaggerated at the end. I think it was called. Anyways. Okay. So, first we need our headwear layer, I believe. That is already incorporated inside this model biped. Yep, there we are. So good for that. Next thing then, we will shrink the arms in one direction. Would arm jewelry be applicable? Absolutely. We can make that gold and red and whatnot. Let's see, minus 2F, minus 2F, minus 2F. Surprisingly, that's quite straightforward. Okay. And the other arm. Yeah, just enough people like that. That's why you should be careful about data sources on the internet, because a lot of them tend to be intended to fit the majority of people looking for it, which is not necessarily accurate. One of these is usually mirrored, but surprisingly it does not say. It's usually the left side. Okay, that's the arms. So let's change the... Now, I think we do want... We're going to need the majority of the bustle, at least, to move. But I think we'll probably be fine if this topmost section never does, which is also good because it means it'll always be occluding what would otherwise be where the legs attach to the torso, be occluding the pelvis, as it were. And for those of you who are curious here, which is probably not many, but still, fresh render here is part of my model utilities, which are just things I do a lot when I'm making various oddities, and it just basically returns a new model renderer with the same texture size as the thing that I gave it, which is akin to just creating a new model renderer, but it's just a single function, so there's not a lot going on with it, but it's there and it's helpful. Let's see. Make sure you know to be there. -4, 0, and -2, and those are 8, 5, and 4. And then there's another one underneath it, which is our, well, firstly there's the actual, like, layer on top of that, which is 0.5f. And then there's the corset part. Which is, let's see, -3.5. That should be 5. -1.5. Yeah, perfect. Just to keep it at the same rotation point. And what is the body wear? 16 and 25. Gotcha. That doesn't feel right somehow. No, apparently it's right. Okay, here's the topmost part of the bustle. A little bit of interfacing. And now we have to get a little bit clever, because this is rotated and everything else isn't, which means we need to add it as a child. And then that will then be able to retain its rotation. So whilst everything else here is its rotations of 0, this is actually the start where it begins to change. But thankfully, those are both at 4 rotation. Well, 4 pitch, 4 degrees pitch, so we shouldn't need more than 1. The only problem being that they do in fact have different rotation points, so... Plus, if you have your rotation point as being, if rotation point and offset are different things, and they have different implications when you are rotating, so we probably actually do need 2 of these. Here's me using all manner of highfalutin programming language to describe fashion. Oh well. we had the Minecraft reveal of what they're doing next, and by the by, I am tremendously disappointed in the Minecraft community for voting for Glue Squid over Chillager. Yeah, I had to describe on the last carousel stream exactly why it is that I'm utterly livid about how horses were modeled. At least as far as this, they were remodeled after this version. Hopefully that's much better. And the reason being, they have this capacity to add children and parent things. They never did. Dr. Zark, why? Okay. Muzzle tab 2. Technically it should be 0 and 1, but it's fine. About how it's modeled? Horses. Okay, so I've been over this story like 5 million times, but here we go again. Horses in Minecraft originate in a mod called Mo Creatures by Dr. Zark, in a similar way that pistons originate from a mod as well. And that means that somebody outside of the Mojang developer team originally modeled them, and they basically just imported that. And they're functional. I can't say they're not. But you'll see how I've got all these things together. So all of these different boxes are in the same, basically, the same chunk of the model, and then we've got ones that aren't at the same rotation that are being added by children, that kind of thing. All of this, very neat and tidy, lets us control vast swaths of the model with only a couple of lines of code to alter how it runs. Very neat and tidy. This is what the, as of at least 1.12.2, horse model looks like. Can you see a problem already? So, a few of these pieces are related to specific kinds of horse. But here, for instance, are 6 different chunks of model for 2 legs. There are 3 different points for every single leg. And because not a single one of these is parented, pretty much, there's like, there, you can, that's literally the only time where they ever parent anything, it's parenting the mouth to the head. Because these aren't parented, the animation code is even worse, because they have to apply animation code manually to every single one. Like, oh, the code to turn the horse's head alone has to hit something like 5, probably more, models in here. This is why I hate the horse model. It is arguably even more horrific than horses them actually selves. Horses are constantly on tiptoes. Did you know that? It's because their hooves are actually elongated fingers, essentially. But yeah, so that's why I am constantly livid about the state of horses in this version. Anyways, let's get this part in, and I can take my first break of the evening. Sign of a dev who knows what they're doing / sarcasm. I mean, I don't know why Zark did that. I just know that they did. And it's horrifying. Okay. So I'll be back in, well, I'll be back at 10 past, and we'll start adding in the code for this bustle. Did it purely to upset me? Yes, me, who I don't know if I was even coding at that point. Anyways, I will be back at 10 past. See you then. Go grab yourselves a snack. And welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a nice little break there. So, just before we left off, we had managed to import the modeling for the top of the bustle, as well as the body and torso in general, as well as the arms. And now the major thing to add is the bustle itself, which are these two pieces, and then the two wings just on the back there. And then we can see how that looks a little bit more in-game and figure out if we need to change it at all, which answer is probably yes, because let's be real. But still. Hope you had a nice little break there. And first things first, I need to model this in a fashion where that is relative to that, whereas currently they are both relative to up here. And that's not so great, because if we want to animate these things, then we want to make sure that they actually rotate according to the right placements. And so we need to move this to be at the bottom, which it appears to be already. Very good. And then move this so that that's also at the bottom. So, bearing in mind, we already mentioned that these two values are not the same thing. We cannot move this by 15 and that to 0 and expect nothing to change because we are dealing with rotation here. So, if we can shift this rotation point to be up there, that would help. Could just see how it works, at least for the time being. But for right now, let's just actually try and get this piece in. So, we want a model renderer, call that Bustle 1, and another one called Bustle 2. Could theoretically put these into a list and iterate over them. We've done that a fair few times when we're making tails. But for right now, this will do. Bought the stuff to make a rainbow blanket? Ooh, fun. Okay, and we need to add a little bit of growth to that so that it is not going to be Z-fighting with our bustle that's attached to the body. Which will make this, which will mean that this does not fully represent it because this is going to be sticking out quite a bit more, but it's fine for the moment. And let's also add that as a child renderer to our body. Which will then mean we won't have to rotate it on the yaw or anything else. We'll just automatically have the angles from the body and we just have to modify them. Parenting is your friend when it comes to animation. Do not be like the horse. Okay, so 0F, it's 3F different, so let's hope that at least gets close to where we want to be. Okay. And let's add that as a child to Bustle 1. Okay, and make sure we've got our angles in. This will just be our resting points essentially. Okay, So now we go back over to our witch. Problems with hair? Oh, yeah. Old code. It's fine. This one is probably not even relevant anymore. Okay. Render Patron Witch. Here we are. We don't need that trail anymore, but we definitely don't need that glow either. Okay. So, let's change that to elf. Elf, not Ethel. And let's just make it never really update itself for the most part. Off to bed, have a good night. Nights, guys. Have a good sleep. Okay, that will mean that it's always set to elf. Which will make it significantly easier for us to actually see how it's going. Now there is another thing here, which is that this texture is not going to remotely match what this is, so if we want to actually have it be remotely legible to our eyes, we need to just set that to be null, which means we end up with the black and the purple texturing, which is fine for us because it will show us exactly what everything is. If we were to use the existing elf texture, which doesn't match, we would see a lot of transparency, which is not helpful right now. I could probably tidy this thing up a lot, but oh well, for right now it's fine. So how does our witch look currently? Very interesting indeed. Now what's happening there, I wonder? We don't have any errors is the interesting thing. Okay. For a good question about shape, I realized that was answered already. Oh. Feel free to ask it anyways. No? Oh, okay. Curse my endless curiosity. That looks fine, as near as I can tell. Interesting. And everything's parented to model biped values, so it should already be set to render. Very curious indeed. I'm going to presume that the renderer of Minecraft treats a null texture as separately to a missing texture. Yeah, that's okay. Well, today I learned. That's interesting, because that's not the elf model. That's very much the witch model. Would there be toe beans in this form? There very easily could be. You could very easily do that. Just look away for long enough, look back, there we go. Okay, we are missing a chunk here, which I evidently forgot to parent. Yes, Bustle Top 2 has not been added to the body. Oh no, we can see their bare leggies. Okay, we also don't have their wings added in just yet, but that's a good start, I think. Once we add that part, of course, yes. Ah. But yeah, we could add toe beans. That would add a bit of detail to their legs. That's not inconceivable. But okay, let's add the wings. Which we can mostly just grab from Roll Changeling, come to think of it. So we take that and we just change up where the rotation point is. So for them, it's 2.50 and 2.f. For us, it's going to be 0, 4, and 2. That's new. Go away. Thank you. Oh, I bet you they're different things because of just the way they were modeled originally. It's fine, we're not gonna have them moving just yet. Yep, okay, and then the other one. Just straight zeros across the board, nice. And your X angle starts at 12. Because it has to account for the bustle. Okay. I can just close out of these. Don't need them right now. So, when we are flapping, we need to have some detail here. Not quite sure what my webcam there, well, my actual webcam as opposed to my cam was going to do there, but okay, so that should, yes, rotate angle Z does not interfere with the X, so should be fine. Okay, and that calls the super, so we shouldn't have any troubles with breaking the other animations. So now we should have some wings on the back. They occasionally flutter like the changelings do. And then we can disguise that to look like elegant lace or some such. Because it's always nice, considering that this entity's primary form has the symbol for trickery on the back, to give you a slight hint that things aren't necessarily as they seem. Okay, so that's still the witch. Quite why it stays the witch, I don't know. Genuinely, it should default to just being the elf appearance, but apparently it's decided no. Come on, let me see the back of you. Well, we appear to be fluttering. Hang on, can I just... Yeah, there we go. We are fluttering, but we do need to account a bit more for the bustle. But, hey, that's good progress. Yeah, I do like the flutter. Their own private breeze, I guess, yeah. Can I just turn Dave off? Just to have a little bit of, peace and quiet here. Yep. And there we go. Okay. So we need to increase the default resting points. And then also animate the bustle. Which we can probably do with animating before we do anything else. Now, how do we want to animate this bustle? Because the easiest part is just to say that they have to be like the bare minimum of whatever the legs are. Plus 4. Is this a float? Yes. Let's see, where are they? There you are. Just give this an extra couple. Or we can animate them. I'll leave it away. Okay. Now, if we do that, the further out they go, the more they're going to spiral off. So we actually want to... We can reduce that, or we can just have Bustle 2 always be pointing straight down. For right now, let's just multiply by 5. Same thing as halving it. I have probably gotten this back to front because Lord knows I always do, but here we go. And I remember if positive means that if a positive value is like lifting behind or in front. Well, actually, I guess I can figure that out here, can't I? Yeah, so we want the highest value, I think. they were going to be toe beans, Esper, they would probably be in the texture. They wouldn't be modeled. But it's not impossible. They'd be relatively either very low resolution, or we'd have to significantly increase the resolution of the actual texture, which is a pain. Okay, so you're still... I don't know, yeah, I don't know why you're initializing like that. You should be initializing in your elf costume. It's very odd. Nope. Okay, fine. Well, you figure that out, and I'll just, look around, see if I can find out where that's happening. There we go. Okay. So, wings are still clipping. Bustle does appear to be in position. Do me a favor and walk around a little bit. Hmm? I said walk, thank you very much. You remember walking, you know? 1 foot in front of t'other. Does feel like the top part here is a little off. Because we should, like, by default that should pretty much always just be inside of the legs. It shouldn't be poking at the front like this. We should be able to see more of the leggy. That might be because we increased the scale. Well, come on. I suppose I can force you to walk up to me by virtue of, your great code just by exiting and re-entering. Yep, that appears to be correct. So that basically just means that the legs never breach through the back of the bustle, which would be quite undignified, suffice it to say. Okay, so we are going to need a ponytail. Not too hard to do, and we also want to fix up the wings as well so that they never intersect with the bustle either. So in that case, do we want them to flutter whilst the cape is necessarily in motion? I don't know. Leave as is for the time being. Okay, we can get rid of those because those were animated now. Render patron witch. We need a ponytail. Just give it the main witch one for the time being. might just be... We might just be at the point now where we set it to be... my brain's gone dead. Where we start working on a crown. I think. Let's just see how this looks. Yeah, it's definitely very me that in the span of about a week we went from 1 enchantment to 13. Could be worse. I've definitely been known to go to hundreds. Yeah, I don't know why you're defaulting to that. Actually, no, we do need to add the ears. The pointed ears. Thanking you, okay. Oh, that doesn't need... That bottom piece definitely needs to be tweaked, I think. Hey Firefly, how you doing? But the wings need to be tweaked up more, but we're getting there. And I think, do we have a ponytail on you? I can't quite tell. It would help if you stopped looking at me. I know I'm fascinating, but still. We don't seem to have a ponytail. Okay. Now why might that be? Ah, I think I see why. Okay, so in our models for witches, we have model patron witch base. And we evidently don't have that inside of our elf. So we need to fix that up, and then we should get a ponytail in. And then we can just go to human, which is the major face. Should be basically the same there. And we need to get the height and the ponytail rendering. As well as the actual ponytail anchor. And that basically just allows us to have an anchor point attached to the head that we can use for basically just attaching a ponytail. Is there anything else here? Rotation angles, there we are. I think that's everything. Yep. Okay, that should get us our ponytail. increase that to, I guess, 12 right now. See how that does. There we go. Do we add the ears from the human disguise, or do we make distinct ones? That is the question. Yeah, that's not the model. That's interesting. I guess it's because... I guess you initialize yes with human witch. Aha, that's why. Okay, well, I figured out why we keep having the human witch disguise. It's because the initializer goes into there, and then we don't actually update it until here. I can probably fix that just by going down here. And doing that. I do not see it. Okay, no longer intersecting at the front. How about the back? Needs more. Needs more. Okay. But it is listening to me, so yay. There, that should be perfect. That it's listening to me means I can change the actual values in here live and they'll update on screen. Hooray! Okay, can't actually add it to pieces though, so that part we do actually have to read before. But okay, I would like to add a little bit of idling to the actual bustle itself as well. So just keep an eye on the witch and we'll see what I can do here. That's not quite... It's either not enough or it's not doing much. Okay, now you can see it. Now they vibing. Oi, get back here. I'm trying to do stuff. I'm trying to do stuff to your bustle. Oh dear. That seems like the animation's too slow. I don't know if other changelings in this particular type of disguise will have this bustle. It might be interesting to leave that as just sort of a hint of an ovipositor or egg sac or such. Maybe that's why this Victorian bustles and whatnot tend to get drawn into insect analogies. Just keeping an eye to make sure that the... Yeah, that's the problem. That's what I'm trying to fix here. I think that amount is fine. Okay. As I say, it's always nice to give a little bit of a hint that things aren't quite above board with when it comes to the witch. Okay, next stop, ears. And yeah, let's just pause you. Yes. We might actually get to the texturing part. Ooh. Okay, we'll see. Okay. Ears. And I believe we can probably stand to... I think we can probably stand to move these textures around. If we can figure out a space large enough for them. Sniffle, sniffle. Did I add? Yes, I did add that part. Okay. Wasn't quite sure if I'd actually implemented that part. There we go. Okay, that fits everything nice and tidily onto the image here. Not the wings, but you know, we're working on that. Okay. So the wings are at 0 and 32. Then we mostly just moved out the muscle pieces, so that one is at 36 and 34. That one is at 16 and 42. And then these pieces. Zero and 52 and 30 and 52. There we go. Should make them a little bit more visually consistent at the very least. But anyways, ears. So, how do we want to model these ears? The classical one, I think, for elves is a single, long, rectangular cube, I guess, going outwards with like a flat plane inside being like the inner part of the ear, which works okay, I think. Obviously, for the witch, we also have the fox ears, a recurring feature. Let me just try and model. be on the left, I believe. Yep. Is that the right point? I think. Good enough, I think. At least for right now. So that creates essentially most of an ear. Hang on. There we go. So we get the pointed top parts, and then do models support flat planes? They absolutely do. Yes, we use it quite a bit. Yeah, they absolutely do support flat planes. They're a bit wonky, but they work. But yeah, we've used them in a bunch of places. Here being just one of them. I do think we can do better than that, at least a little bit better. Obviously we don't have to use the entire span of that. So for instance, we could have that being how the ears look. Not 100% sold on that. Bearing in mind there is also going to be a hat on this, so like a nice little fake crown. I think it'll look okay, at the very least. Having the underplane look longer looked nicer. Bearing in mind this will be mostly transparent. It's mostly just for like, here is the big point and here's the chunk you actually see. But sure, we can increase that to about there. Oh. Let's add one in and see how it goes. Plunk you where you need to be. Which is probably the other side here. This is not the most sensible selection of places I've ever put pieces, but it's probably fine for right now. the other one, we can just drop that right under here. There. It's not dreadfully required that this section over here that isn't in red is empty of stuff, but it helps. That's essentially the area that was bookmarked until it realized it didn't actually have any, like, depth, so... Some parts of this I could also make smaller by rotating them 90 degrees on the texture file, but for right now, this is fine. Okay, 14 to 22, and that should give us an ear. Just the one ear, but it's a start. Now, I should stress, there's gonna be Z fighting in that, in the lobe section of the ear, as it were. This is because there's no space between one side and the other, so they're sharing the same space, which means they're rendering at the same space, which means they're Z-fighting. That won't be the case when we actually have textures. So it'll look especially freaky now, but it'll work out in the end. Let's just see how that looks in-game. I think that looks pretty decent, actually. Doesn't seem too far out. Yeah, I think if we could probably do a turning off the headwear layer, because that will be giving us an inflated sense of where it is. Just by doing that, but we will have to reboot. The headwear layer, as the name implies, is mostly for headwear, or hair, frequently. Can be used for other things, but it's mostly hair. And we'll see how that looks when I get back from my break at 10 past. See you then. Right, folks, welcome back to the final hour of our evening tonight, and we are just finishing up with the modeling by adding a pair of ears. Let's see how that looks. Okay, yeah, I'm liking that. I would like it a bit better if you were actually facing, like, straight on. Thank you. So I get an idea of the height. Yeah. I think that's pretty good. I think that'll do nicely. Okay. Right then. So now we have to add the other one, obviously, as well as return the headwear layer. And do we want to add? We definitely don't have time for full like textures here. So yeah, we'll start work on adding a hat, because all good leaders of any kind of cult require some kind of fancy hat. I say cult, it's a hive, but nonetheless. Let's see, that's 4 and 5.5. To make sure they're even. Yep, okay. Yep, okay, right. So same texture mapping. Frequently I put stuff like this inside of its own little function to just add an ear, but it's fine for right now. Let's see, -4, and -4. And that wants to be... there wants to be 0. Is that really a 0.5 there? Yeah, -0.5. Interesting. Okay, well, let's make sure we have that in place. Oh yeah, there we go. That's perfect. Insofar as I can tell anyways. We'll find out more when we actually in-game. And then 14 and yep, good. Okay, that's set. And this one. See, -4, -1.5, yes, good. 46, 44, zeros across the board, 0, 2, 3, yes, good. And 13, -22, grand. Okay. That should be both ears then. So let's have a quick look. And then we'll move on to adding a crown. There is a model for a crown down here, which is related to a different thing specific to patrons. I haven't quite gotten that to work. Basically, there's an effect in Hellboy. Whenever Hellboy has his full, like, horns up and his fly, there's like fire just above his head. There's like a void within, kind of, a missing, like, section of fire inside of that flame that is shaped like a crown. And it looks really nice, and I like that implication. So I've been trying to add that to just anything that anything that is registered as being a patron mob. I mean, I'll get the rendering working on that, so it's just sort of sitting there for the time being. Just so I don't have to model the crown again. Okay. Both ears appear to be in place. Could maybe do with moving it back just a little bit because of that little gap right there, but yeah, I think it's fine. I think it works. So, okay. Could almost do with could almost do with moving the wings down to like the small of the back actually. But that might be a little bit too much. They said of the witch who is perennially too much. Okay, we can get rid of that for the time being then. Right. So now we need an item. So let's see. Create an archfey hat, why not? Might as well make it a gold, just irrelevant, but might as well make it a gold. Does not have an overlay, although well, we'll comment that out for the time being. But in theory, I could actually make it dyeable so that you can have like different colored berries or something on it. That'd be interesting. I have literally one intended use for this, so. Let's keep that as that for the time being, just so I can actually add this. Let's see, mob drops. Just trying to think of what category to lump this in with. Special, maybe? Props. Yeah, that makes most sense. Okay, so that should add it. As an item, it won't have a model, it won't really have much of anything, but, you know, it's there. And okay, that gives it a name. Won't have a model again. And we will have to have a separate entity model and a separate item model so that they're actually able to render both. But as I say, it mostly only matters if we have an entity model part. For right now, it should think that it's just a witch hat. Also, it won't have an overlay by sheer rote of the fact that I was told that it's golden. So, but if we made it lever down the road, then sure, we could do that. So, should just have an item in the props category. Yep. Is that seriously listed under loot? I guess it would be. Because, yeah. So, Crown of the Archfey should be a thing I can put on my head. And it will look very strange, but it will look like a hat for right now. I think I'm actually going to take you off for the moment. Thank you very much. Just to make things a little quieter around here. So, okay, we now need to model this into such a fashion that it resembles a crown, ideally respecting the fact that we're going to have a headwear layer here as well. Your standard helmet is rendered slightly larger, I think it is. I'm not 100% certain off the top of my head. Top of my head. biped is where it comes into that. Yeah, model size gets used to increase in the event that you're actually making helmets and such, which is why your head layer is inside of your helmet, usually. Tucked inside. Okay. I think I'm done with this, so I'll just try and... Genuinely don't know if it still functions to let me export this, but let's find out. Because this software is getting a little old in the, a little long in the tooth, I guess. Ah, grand. Yeah, she did. It actually worked. Hurrah! That means I can potentially just get rid of that entirely. And I write a section here. So textures, entity, patron witch. Yes, replace the patron witch elf that's already here. Honestly, a little amazed that we actually managed to get all of that in the same image there. I think... Yeah, I think that's everything good for now, right? So now I can actually start a new project. And we'll start with model biped. So we actually have our references. Okay. So we want a fey crown. Made of predominantly things like dark oak and the like. And there's a lot of things here, if we search for fey crowns, that are just way too... that's pretty nice if this was some form of ice archfey. But yeah, there's a lot of things here that are way too metallic and way too ornate in the wrong way. Bejeweled, I guess would be the phrase. Whereas this really is more what we're kind of going for. That kind of aesthetic with more sort of this kind of design to it. So I don't know if we'll go like fully around and have it twisted together at the front, but we definitely want it to have like branches essentially. More or less, we don't care about that, or that, or that, or that, or that. We just care about up here. Now this is a much easier thing to make inside of Crayfish's item model and block model maker than it is in Techni, but unfortunately, we had to do it here. Because we need all these numbers when we're putting it in. So let's start by... I'm trying to think, is there like a picture of Sauron out of curiosity? Unfortunately, I know what'll happen. If I search for foreign crowns, I'll end up with a very specific fellow, which is not what I'm looking for. Just trying to see if I can find a decent reference that isn't basically just a circlet with branches coming off it, as is here. Like, we're looking for a crown that is, like, made of branches. Made of twigs and whatnot. Okay, well, don't use Pinterest as your reference, folks, but, well, don't use Pinterest as a source, I think would be the better way of putting it. But sort of something a bit more like that, but maybe going around the whole way. Let's shuffle this back a bit. Where's fold? There's forward. Okay. Now that does, of course, raise the question of, do we want this to be symmetrical? And I think that's an ideal, but I don't know that we'll necessarily accomplish it. Now we also have to bear in mind that the headwear layer is going to be about there inside of this. So if we put things closer, like half out of the head, then we're going to end up with Z fighting. And if we put stuff even closer than that, then it might get covered up by the hair, which not necessarily a bad thing, visually speaking. Massive nightmare if you're trying to pull a hat out of your hair, but nonetheless, it's like something to be worried about there. Currently, we have made a cow. I think tend towards larger ones at the back and shorter ones at the front. And these are just basic shapes. We can add more nuance to them later. Do let me know, guys, what you think. Okay, 6 points so far. Now the nice thing about this is that we can more or less just use this up here as a way to just basically make a whole thing. In blocks, you can use textures as like all or nothing, so you can scale them from anywhere from like 1 pixel to 16 pixels in the same span of space. Can't do that so much with mob textures, so we actually have to make sure this works properly. But since these are all the same shape and the exact same orientation, we can manage that. Okay, let's just add a ring here, so we want this to be about 9, let's say 2. So as I said, if we have it like this, it'll be Z fighting with the hair, so we don't really want to keep this all around, but I don't think we can increase this by points, because it has to find its way on the texture. Yeah. But of course, if we make it like that, it'll be Z fighting with the branches, with the points. But of course, if we have that there, it'll conflict maybe a little bit. I think, yeah, that'll conflict. That will Z-fight with the hair layer on the interior, which is not so bad of a thing considering this will be opaque. I mean, how often do you stare in between someone's head and their headwear layer? So I think that's probably fine. Like, there's gonna be a lot of minute details of this. Modeling this alone might actually take longer than we have tonight. Oh boy. Hopefully I'm at least conveying the idea of what I want to make here. With rotating stuff is you're never quite certain exactly where the thing you've rotated has now ended up. Okay, so just sort of connect these together with interlacing branches, and then hopefully we can at least get a black and purple rendition of what this should look like. I'm curious about how I'm going to end up moving these across. That's... There. Now those are evenly spaced. I am curious how I'm going to go around the edges here. That could be a nightmare. This is going to be a very interesting looking crown, though. If I can get it right. mean, that works. I'm not necessarily best fond of it, but it works. That breaks my pattern so far of having purely vertical sticks, essentially, but if it works, I guess. I feel like there really probably shouldn't be any part of this that's, like, straight. Especially if the witch is wearing it. Plus that might actually feed quite nicely into the organic kind of look of it. Yeah, what is the Roman crown called exactly? I can't remember. Sort of a leaf. The laurel, that's it. Yeah, do we want this to be a laurel, or do we want it to be, like, all around? What do we think? I wonder if there's a way I can simplify this. But on the other hand, if you're wearing this, you're pretty important, so you probably deserve having a nice high-quality model. Like, can I just reduce this to a textured cube? Is that a thing that I can do? Actually, for a decent chunk of it, I can. All of this interior detail I can probably swap out for just being a cube. Like the interconnections that are going to be really fiddly, that I can just swap. A nicely done textured cube is not always bad. True indeed. So we just have we just have the detail points be those, and then we just have a cube that is 9 by 9. And that's about there. Maybe a bit lower so we can get deeper, a bit higher so we can go higher as well. And then just have most of this essentially be transparent. That could suffice. Looks very odd as a model, it has to be said, but that might be a lot faster than trying to make the whole thing out of individual cubes. Okay. Did I call it archfey? I think I did. Yeah. Okay. So there would still be a bunch of mini model renderers here, but we can still get the majority of this done quite quickly. And then I can add over details in as well later on so that it can look really nice. But anyways. Okay, 1, 2, 3, we have 6 of these. quickly can I go through all of these? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh boy, that's gone weird. Okay. Point free. Let's give these actual names so I know which one I'm looking at. There. Okay, you have no special rotation, so you are just... -4.5, -10, -3, 141. I actually could do with just not having anything there, but having the option of putting in rotation later is nice. You also have no special rotations, so... In theory, I don't even need to do the set texture offset because it defaults to 0, 0 anyways, but it's good practice. Shape 5. Has a little bit of roll to it. The last one, at least for right now, also has a little bit of roll to it. Okay. Remember how weird our witch hat looked without a texture? Well, we're about to see something significantly weirder. But what a way to close out the stream, I guess. Might be sitting a bit high. It's my first critique here. But bearing in mind that that top section won't actually be there for the most part. But okay, let's plunk this on the witch and see how it looks there. Let's see what I can do here. Yep. Okay. That should mean that our witch now has the witchy hat. Well, the crown. The fey crown. Let's see. Again, this will look quite silly, because there's no texture, so it looks very strange, but we'll see. And then next week we can get to some texturing. And I will try and at least have the crown done by then. Oh. Oh. I'm an idiot, that's what. I created the layer, I didn't actually put it on the renderer. There. There we go. Suitably ridiculous, I think. And that happening right there. What's happening there? Was that happening before? I'm not sure. Hang on. Let's do a little investigative dive. Does that happen to everybody? Guess it might, and we can just only see it. Yeah. Well, the witch is looking quite strange, that's for sure, but, you know, we're getting there. Wow. Okay. Right, yes. Well, that is all I have for today, so I hope you've enjoyed. My next stream should be on Thursday at 9. We have some more Monster Hunter World, followed on Friday with some more Dead Space 1 with Friday night, and some random games from the wheel on Saturday at 9. And we'll be back for more of this on Tuesday. Meanwhile, I do make videos over at youtube.com/RememberComic, and everything I do is powered by you over at Patreon at patreon.com/lie. Hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all as ever next time.